Okay, let's take a look at the box office from this past weekend. Total domestic box office was a little more than 93 million, which was good considering it was a 36% jump from the previous weekend, which was around like 67. So definitely a little bit of extra juice here in the fall box office, especially now that this was like the last official weekend before Halloween. It'll be interesting to see if there's carryover this upcoming weekend, even though it will technically be November, if we're going to see like a lot of horror films do well or not, or have we seen all that success from this past weekend. So opening this weekend at number 1, Venom: The Last Dance. This is the third film in the Venom sub-series that Sony is doing, where they were like, hey, we're going to make a bunch of Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man. We're going to do all these movies about all of this roster of villains, and this has nothing to do with the box office, but it really annoys me, this is a sidebar, that the Venom in these movies looks the way he does, because like the whole reason why he looks the way he does is that the symbiote is modeling itself after Spider-Man. So in this universe where there is no Spider-Man, why does Venom look the way he does? I don't know. This was only projected to make about 59 to 72 million, which was already going to be lower than what the original film opened at. The original film came out, what year was that? That was 2018. And that opened to something like 80 million 6 years ago. So this was already going to be lower than that, but it fell below those projections anyway, only opened to about 51 million. A decent amount of theaters, though, over 4,100 theaters, had a $12-ish thousand per theater average. This is like a weird franchise, right? Because neither of the two films were critically well received, but the first one especially, again, had a really strong box office turnout, and people seemed to like this. Like, a lot of people actually liked these movies, either because they actually liked them or they were like so bad they were good. That first film is a bad movie, but it's so hilarious, right? The second one's actually like not bad. It's actually okay. This seems to not have pleased anybody, right? Either group. It's like not laughably bad, nor is it good enough to appease the fans of this sub-series. So, if you look over at this worldwide total, it's like more than 2/3 of its money has come from overseas. I'm bringing in $175 million worldwide off of just a $120 million budget. So it's already crossed that initial threshold of matching its budget. And with, unless it has a major drop, I don't foresee that. I do foresee this doubling that budget by, if not next weekend, then certainly its third weekend. But again, this has not gotten really good reviews. It's one of those things where a $50-ish million opening is good for 2024. Kinda, but it is disappointing to see compared to the original film. And I'm not sure how much the second one opened to, but that one did open during COVID. Let me pull up. The second one's Let There Be Carnage. That came out in 2021. Oh, okay. So even though it opened in 2021, it opened to like $90 million. So even a COVID movie from 3 years ago opened bigger than this. So I guess you could say it did better than Joker 2, Joker Folie à Deux. So I guess that's a kind of a low bar. Also opening this weekend, we have at fourth place the religious political thriller Conclave. This is a film directed by Edward Berger, who of course was the director behind the critically acclaimed new adaptation of All Quiet on the Western Front for Netflix, which I thought was good but a little overrated. This was projected to make around 7 to 10, just barely fell below that, about 6.5 million. But the fact it is in the top 10, the top 5, goes to show, I think, again, the sea change we're seeing in the box office, that people are more willing to go to the theater when it's more quality product, right? I went to go see this movie last week. I thought it was great. My review for it is actually going to be coming out tomorrow on cinemancuso.substack.com, where I do reviews of newer films, like written reviews. I thought it was great, but I'm definitely like the target market for this as like a left-leaning Catholic, so there's like obviously I fit like that Venn diagram. But it has been getting Oscar buzz, so I think it's open wide here at about 1,700 theaters. But that's still not as wide as it can go. Again, it's technically wide, but really we should have like different gradations, right? Because basically anything over 600 theaters is considered wide. But it feels like a movie like this versus Venom's opening feel like they should be in different categories. But hopefully it gets that Oscar buzz in of itself, because like a lot of times these more art house is the wrong word, but more independent-minded films, awards films, they exist less to make money, more for the prestige. So if it's successful in the award season, that would be beneficial to it. But then of course, award nominations help at the box office, because right now it's in the red because it was made for about $20 million. So it still has some way to go. I'm not sure what the plan is for overseas, international release, because as you can see here, its domestic total accounts for its entire worldwide total. But again, I thought it was really great, and I hope it's still in the conversation, awards conversation come January and February. Continuing into their second weekend, we have Smile 2, right? That, kind of opened around where the previous one did. It was definitely a good success for them. Dropped from first to second in its second weekend. Kind of a big drop, though, like around 59%, despite adding 5 theaters. And you would think, again, it's not, it had already come out, but you would think that all of these horror movies would get a little bit more of a bump, or at least have a less big drop for this, again, like this last week, October weekend before Halloween. Though it's not all doom and gloom, because at this point it is very much in the red. It has more than doubled its budget. Its worldwide total is almost $84 million off of a $28 million budget. So I would consider this a success so far, right? Again, not a huge success, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of legs it can have. But now that spooky season will be over, on top of, again, there's going to be so many awards movies and family movies coming out. Is there going to be a lot of room for Smile 2, come November? And especially December. Also continuing this week, this is now entering the top 10. Jumping from 18th to 8th place is Anora in its second weekend, bringing in even just less than $1 million. So this is also interesting that we have 3 films here in the top 10 that brought in under $1 million. Only bringing in, this movie only brought in was $867,000. This is the new film from Sean Baker, who's obviously the very acclaimed director behind films like Tangerine, which was notable for being about a trans sex worker, entirely shot on an iPhone, which got a lot of acclaim at the time. He also did the Florida Project, and he's one of those directors. He's one of my most regrettable blind spots. I've always heard great things about these movies. I've never seen a single one of them. I'm going to see Anora this week. I would really like to have seen at least one of his other films before this week, but I may not have the time to do so. But it's gotten rave reviews. I think on Letterboxd has like a 4.3 out of 5. And so this did constitute a 58-ish% jump. And notice it's not even wide, right? So it's in the top 10. It's only in 34 theaters. And that itself is a jump from they added 28 theaters for this weekend. So it has the best per theater average of the weekend. So even though it's not bringing in as much and it's not in as many theaters, the per theater average is like $25,000. That's double the per theater average for Venom 3, right? This brings its worldwide total. Again, this is a movie not about making a lot of money, and I don't have budget figures for how much this cost. Worldwide, it's around $2.2 million. But again, this is definitely, or hopefully, one that really moves into award season, something that his other films haven't been able to do quite as well as you would maybe think. Looking here, still in the top 5, we have The Wild Robot, which I'm happy about, dropping from 2nd to 3rd in its 5th frame. So this has been out for well over a month now. I'm bringing just about $6.5 million for the weekend. This is where, I've been talking about this. What is this 5th weekend? I think I've said this every single week, but it bears repeating, that from the jump, the strategy seemed to be that this was not going to open big, but they were going to hold out week to week. As you can see from that domestic multiple, it seems like they've been pretty successful with that. So, compared to its $36-ish million opening, its total domestic, domestic box office take is $111 million. So it's consistently making money week after week after week. And it's a moderate success. So it's brought in $232 million worldwide off of a $78 million budget. So again, not gangbusters, nowhere near the kind of percent return that you saw with like Inside Out 2 or Despicable Me 4, right? Was it the 4th one? Jeez, there's so many of them. I think it's not going to have that same appeal or success because it's not, a sequel to something that's already wildly popular. It's based off of like some books, but I don't think those were, again, super, it's not the same. But again, this couldn't happen to a better film. I thought the movie was great. And it's just exciting to see different kinds of animated films being rewarded financially at the box office, right? Also in the top 5 is We Live in Time, holding its 5th place spot in its 3rd frame. This is the Florence Pugh, Andrew Garfield, domestic drama. I saw it last week. I thought it was great. I was going to do a review on it, but I ended up not having any time. But I thought it was beautiful and both heartwarming and heartbreaking all at the same time. So it's really great to see this, this doing well. This is its 3rd weekend. Last weekend, it went wide. And it's now, not only did it go wide, but now it's adding even more theaters. It added like almost 2,000 theaters. This brings its worldwide total to around $12 million. Again, I don't have any budgetary figures for this one, but I would imagine that, again, the intention is not to make a gajillion dollars with a movie like this. Just a couple other notes here. Beetlejuice, still in the top 10, dropping from 4th to 7th place in its 8th frame, bringing just a little over $3 million, only a 35% jump. This is a movie that I think has had decent legs, but it has dropped off more precipitously than something like The Wild Robot, which, as you can see in that domestic multiple column, Wild Robot's in the green versus Beetlejuice, which is in the yellow. But I think I did read that this Beetlejuice is Warner Brothers' highest grossing domestic film of the year. I think worldwide it's still Dune Part 2, I should say. But yeah, that domestic total of $289 million seems to be the one to beat for Warner Brothers. And this brings its worldwide total to about $439 million off of a $100 million budget. So again, this is one that's definitely a success and way more successful, again, in terms of that percent return than I was anticipating. I was kind of anticipating this one to kind of flop a little. Not flop, but just not do super, super well. So, as anyone who watches the show knows, I am more than happy to admit when I'm wrong. But again, will these horror films, are they going to keep doing well once we enter November? And we enter family movie season, Christmas movie season, awards movie season. And then also, still in the top 10, but probably not going to stay there for much longer, Transformers 1, dropping from 8th to 10th place in its 6th weekend, only bringing in about $720,000 per theater. And this was a pretty big drop from the previous weekend, of almost 2/3 drop. Lost over 700 theaters, had the worst per theater average of the top 10 at around $500. This is a movie that could have done way better financially, but Paramount made the same exact mistake they did with the Ninja Turtles movie from last year, where they just didn't market it very well. Both the quality of the marketing and the quantity of marketing. And this movie got really good reviews and really good fan response. I personally thought it was overrated. I thought it was only fine. But you would think, based off of the hype that it had kind of going into it, that it would have opened way bigger. But as you see, the opening was only like $25 million, and that itself was below the low projections. So, but the legs have been there, for sure, in the sense that it's, you know, it's holding, but it's not really bringing in a lot of money, right? Because its worldwide total is around 124 million, but it's off of like $111 million budget. So it has made back the budget, but ideally you want to double that budget to cover all the marketing and advertising costs, which are not included here. But it also begs the question, how much money did they put into the advertising? Because most of it sucked. So again, it's a definitely interesting top 10 that we have here. But again, I think what we're going to start seeing in the next couple of weeks is a lot more smoothed out, where you're going to have a lot more movies making smaller amounts and more evenly spread, as opposed to this, where it's like 52 million at the, you know, the number one movie is like in the 50s, and then the bottom movie is less than $1 million. Okay, and I want to just look ahead to the upcoming weekend. We have the Robert Zemeckis kind of experimental family drama called Here, Here. Only projected to make about 5 to 8 million. This is like, so this shot you see here, basically the whole movie is from this angle. And every scene is like a different point in like this couple's history, from like being teenagers to adults to old people. And it features like these like deep fake, de-aged Tom Hanks and Robin Wright. So it's kind of like a little mini Forrest Gump reunion. It sounds really interesting, but Robert Zemeckis' latest films have been middling, if not bad, on like the past decade or so. And also, I think some reviews that I've already, maybe I haven't seen reviews, but I've not heard good things about this going into this movie. So that is a small projection, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's closer to 2 or 3. Wow, what an interesting story. I'm sure you have some thoughts about the topic, so comment below, let me know what you think. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really, really helps people find the channel and makes me feel all warm inside. Until next time, I'm Peter Mancuso. Peace out.